Hello everybody, it's Stuart here today in the Doris Visits hot seat, and boy is it hot today. We'll get around to that in just a second, but as it's January 2021, let me start off by saying I hope we all have together a better year in 2021 than we had in 2020. Because that old virus, like the flu, has come back in January, slightly different strain, and it's taken everybody, well, most people, by a bit of surprise. So I hope that we get the whole handle on it, we get it all sorted, and it sorts itself out. Because I want to go cruising again, and I'm sure you guys do. I have a lot of bookings for this year already, and as you know, I come on to talk about my cruise ship crime books, and my 50 years in the movie industry. So here's the thing. I had been, in my lectures, and if you'd been coming to them, been predicting a plague such as we've had. For very different reasons, but I think a lot of filmmakers had, and you're seeing, or you have seen on the television, a lot of films about viruses and plagues because a lot of filmmakers had been predicting that. Just in the same way as Blade Runner was predicting multiple screens, as we've been predicting video phones, all those kind of things. Films have to look into the future. And one of the things we had been thinking about certainly was what's just happened. Not very nice, but the conditions of which we live under with this virus are perhaps a little strange, but predictable. This is the latest book, Cruise Ship. This is Disastrous COVID-19 CRUISE ROMANCE. And this is all about someone going back onto a ship, the first ever cruise after the outbreak of the virus. And it explains a lot of things in this book that I thought the ship would have to undergo in order to cruise again, and the way cruisers had to react with each other. So it's actually quite pertinent, and I know it'll get a lot of people hot under the collar, but it is a novel. It isn't a document. It's something that I came up with, and I bet it's not going to be far away. The interesting premise of this is that a lady who was agrophobic, who was suffering because she was badly agrophobic, started to think the whole world could understand her, because when they were all locked down, TV started to talk to her. People understood her problem because they all had it. And when lockdown finished, she came out and went onto a ship, which caused a huge number of problems, and there is a major crime. Anyway, the problems today. Everybody's talking about the virus, but since the Ryanair advertising, which has used the phrase, we know grab and go is when you get a sandwich out the fridge, right? But they were talking about jab and go. And I think it's probably the connotations of where that might take us. But in that book, the cruise demands you have a vaccine before you go on the cruise. It's just something we thought up in the novel. One of the many things that make the cruising very, very different, as well as the big crime that goes on with a very sad lady who we learn all her problems and learn to live with throughout the story. Anyway, I have, on Doris Visits, been suggesting, no more than a suggestion, that if you do have the jab, that you ask for a record of it. It's caused so much controversy because some people don't want to have the jab. Hey, fair enough. That's your choice, if it's a choice. And some people are going, well, we're not going to get a record of it. How are we going to get a record of it? Well, hey, record books. But apart from that, if you go on the government NHS website for medical records and how you get them, there is a site telling you how you get your medical records. All of them. And this is because we are allowed to have all of our medical records. Now, your vaccination record book or your vaccination certificate will have on it the date you had the vaccination, what vaccination you had, and quite importantly, the batch number. So if something goes wrong, they can trace it. So why have I had so many vaccinations? Well, 50, I stutter saying it, 50 years in the movie industry, I've been to some pretty strange places, jungles, deserts, holes that have been made by volcanoes that nobody has ever been to, simply because it was there for the film. And that requirement has been that I've had to have some pretty nasty jabs, really nasty jabs actually, that have made me quite uncomfortable and quite ill. But only for a while, you get over it. But without those, one, I wouldn't have got into the country. Two, the company that I was working for, their insurance company, wouldn't have insured me. And thirdly, I'd have never got the job. So they were the terms of me going on that job. So I had the vaccination. I have to say also that when I was on a 3-month movie picture in Thailand, I asked my wife to come out, Jean, who most of you know from the Port Talk films that we do on Doris Visits. She came out as well for the middle month, and our children, Laura, who you know from Gavin and Stacey, and Luke, were then 2 and 4. And they had to have some pretty rough jabs, and Laura was quite ill. But she came out, they came out, had a great time in Thailand for a whole month, and they had the jabs. It's choice. Hey, it's choice. So, the certificates that the doctor may give you may look like this. This is a certificate which I have folded and stapled into an NHS vaccine book. There are also vaccines listed in the book which are dated and stamped with a batch number. That's an NHS vaccination book. They may not give these out anymore. Hey, listen, if 60 million people are going to get vaccinated, they're going to run out of books. Trust me, but ask for some form of record of your vaccination. If you're going to have it, get a record. This is from a travel clinic. If you have to have a vaccination before you go, or at the airport because you missed it, thought you could get away with it, couldn't, and you have to go and have the jab there and then before you get on the plane. This is actually one which I had to have because I was called, hey, can you be on a plane in 8 hours? Yes, pack, go, passport, bang. But got to the airport, you can't get on this plane unless you had a vaccination. So this was done in a private clinic. I had a record of it in their book that they gave me. So you can get books. They are around. You've got to look for them maybe. But you can get certificates which you can staple into books. So normally it can be on a card. Sometimes they give you a little card which can be the book, you know, when you say next booking at, they can cross out next booking and put vaccination, batch number, date it was taken, stamp it. It's good enough. All I'm saying is if you have it, get a record. Because if you do get into that position where it's required, you've got it. And those people who don't wish to have it, who haven't got it, then they'll deal with that themselves afterwards. There's no point in arguing. I'm not suggesting you have to have it. I'm just saying, if you have the vaccination, you might choose and may as well have a record of the vaccination. As simple as that is. So, back to Happy New Year, and let's cruise again as fast as we can, and I hopefully see you on a ship somewhere. Do come up, talk to me, and yes, of course, I always sign the books as usual. Happy New Year.